But today I have with me William, and William and I met through actually another guest I had on a podcast, and she gave
Mhm.
me his name, and he was previously on her show, and said you got to reach out to this guy. You got to hear his story, and what he's doing and how he's helping and supporting others. So I'm gonna just open up to William, and just start with sharing like who you are today, and then we can dive into how you got to where you are today and probably what you're doing as well to help others.
Sounds good, John. Hey guys, well, as John said, my name is William Kemm. Today, basically, I'm working in holistic health. I'm actually working in training with a world-class holistic health and life coach. Basically, he's the guy that, when I was really, really struggling, I was at my wit's end, honestly, and just at a point where I was ready to end my life. That was just about 5 years ago now. Basically, I met him through a coworker, and he radically transformed my life and my health. And so I'll tell you a bit about how my life started, and then we'll go from there. Basically, I had a pretty normal childhood up till the age of 10. I grew up on a farm outside of northern Alberta. My parents were big farmers and pigs and stuff. And as long as I can remember, though, like it was kind of like a not really good dynamic with my mom and my dad. They fought a lot, right? And I don't ever remember them sleeping in the same bed together. And so you can imagine I was, a little bit stressful as a child seeing that going on, right? My mom was my best friend growing up, like as a real mama's boy. And when I was 10 years old, like I was like into sports and stuff a lot, and I was heavily into hockey and soccer and all that. And I'm a super healthy, fit kid. And when I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with T-cell leukemia. And I just got really, really sick one day in school. And obviously, I didn't know what was going on. I phoned up my parents, and they came and picked me up and brought me home. And I just remember it just got worse and worse and worse as the days went on. And just stayed home for about, I think it was 7 days, and just got to the point where the pain was so bad, and they could see I was swelling up and stuff in my lymph nodes. And so they took me to the hospital. And the first hospital they took me to, they told me I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I don't know if my parents didn't want to believe that, but they wanted to have a second opinion. So they actually sent me to a hospital, and a bigger hospital, a more modern hospital in Edmonton, and that's where they told me I had T-cell leukemia. And so, that's like all my parents knew, right, was the Western medical system, or the modern medical system, they call it, right? And so that's the route they went, right? Obviously, me as a child, I didn't have a choice back then, and so I started chemotherapy and a bunch of other therapies that they use for cancer back then. I'm pretty sure they use them now too, right? And so going through that at 10 years old, I think for me, that'd probably be the best, honestly, because I was still young and healthy, and I don't think I'd want to go through that as an older person, right? But I handled it really well. You know what I mean? I just remember being in the hospital, like kind of having a good time, joking with the nurses and stuff, and like it was weird, right? Like looking back on it, like death was never a thought of mine, right? Even though like lots of the kids I made friends with in the cancer ward and stuff, lots of them didn't make it. I actually don't remember any of them making it. Like my mom would build relationships with their parents and stuff, and so I seen like quite a few of them pass away, which is I didn't really understand as a child back then, but it was never a thought of mine. So I was quite resilient in going through that. And I just remember I came out of remission, so they told my parents the next step was I needed to have a bone marrow transplant. And then that's when things got pretty crazy for me, as far as like when I realized how serious it was, because they gave me like I went to Calgary, and so they put out like a bunch of other treatments, chemotherapy as well, to try and get rid of the cancer, then plus like 10 rounds of full body full body radiation, which was heavy duty, right? Like it burns you from the inside out. And I just remember like a lot of pain and stuff like that. And they put me on a lot of morphine. I had like my own morphine buzzer. I would hit that. I could basically hit that like every 7 minutes, which is what I did. And as a kid, like I didn't, I really liked the morphine. I didn't know any better, and just I enjoyed it, right? It was, and obviously it got rid of my pain. So I would hit that thing constantly. And looking back on that now, I don't know if that was part of why I got into my problems later on in life, but I think it was a big um correlation, right? And so as bad as that was, and like it did a lot of damage, my voice box and my like reproductive organs and lungs and stuff like that, like it's stunted my growth. Like it did a lot of damage, right? Full body radiation, 10 rounds, burned me from the inside out. And like I just remember having like burns all over my body and like these brown spots all over me and stuff like that. And I guess as a child, it was and going to school and stuff, it was tough, right? Um, Shortly after that, I can't really remember the time exactly, but we were coming home from one of my checkups in Calgary, and me and my mom and my brother, and my mom was really tired, I guess, and she fell asleep at the wheel, and we went through a stop sign. I was asleep, and um, we got T-boned, and basically, me and my mom were thrown from the vehicle. My brother was, fortunately, he was wearing a seatbelt, so he stayed in the vehicle, but I was thrown into the ditch, and my mom, fortunately, the vehicle landed on top of her, killing her instantly. And so I just remember that, like, obviously, that was, for me, that was devastating, right? Like, she was my best friend, she was my rock through all that. She never left my side. Like, my dad was really, really busy guy and on the farm and stuff, so he couldn't really come and visit me. But my mom, like, stayed with me the whole time, right? And I just remember it just absolutely devastated me, right, as a child. And I remember waking up in the ditch and there was nocturne calls in the ditch, and the first thing the first thing I screamed was, "Where's my mom? Where's my mom? Where's my mom?" And they told me she was fine. And well, I got airlifted to the hospital, me and my brother, and my brother he was fortunate. Like I said, he was wearing a seatbelt, so he didn't really get any injuries. Like it was amazing, really. And then in the hospital, I just remember screaming for my mom with my brother, and my brother was just beside me, and they told me my mom was fine. She's just in another room, and it wasn't until I was brought to my other room that they told me what had happened, right? Me and my brother, and there's kind of family around us and stuff, and they told us what happened. And then it was just like just a heavy, heavy load, right? And I just never really going home and stuff, and just never really recovered. I remember crying for a long, long time, right? I don't remember how long it was for. I was a child, right? And I just remember um from that on point on, really, I was just emotionally damaged, angry, you know what I mean? It just really changed me as a child, right? I just remember being this happy-go-lucky kid, and then after that happened, it wasn't really the same, right? And my dad did the best he could with what he had, right? He was a single parent at this point, and I'm sure he was devastated too, right? And so I remember just going back to school and started acting out right away, like stealing my dad's booze and stuff. He made his own beer and other stuff, right? And started stealing that, taking that to school and smoking cigarettes, and just really started acting out, skipping school, and which was just wasn't the norm. And for sake of time, I'll just fast forward. Like um, we moved to the island, and it's kind of like a geographical change. My dad kind of wanted to get away from what we were, all the memories and stuff. My mom and I kind of wanted that too. And things are, not really as bad as far as the drinking and stuff for me. But once I got to the island, it kind of like snowballed. I went to an alternative school and started smoking weed and kind of hanging out with the bad crowd. And me and my dad were getting along at all. And so he kind of like, I think it was over a 3-year period. So basically told me like I gotta leave, gotta move out and figure something out, right? Because like I said, we were fighting a lot, right? I was being really disrespectful and just so he basically told me I had to leave, and so I actually moved my mom's brother, he was living in Kemm at the time. I was on Vancouver Island, and we were always really good friends growing up. Like my mom were best friends. He had like a lot of the same interests as I did, hunting and fishing and stuff like that. So I just basically phoned him up and asked him if I could come stay with him, and he said sure. So I went down there, and I mean, I guess he kind of thought he would help me out and get my life back on track. And I was still struggling, obviously, like I'm with my health and stuff, right? Like a big part of my health at that time was they're trying to focus on was get me to gain weight because I was super, super skinny, right? And for whatever reason they couldn't get to gain weight. And I still had depression and anxiety and all that stuff. Like I was different and kids were picking on me, and you know how harsh kids can be, right? So yeah, I moved to Kemm, moved in with my uncle, and just thought maybe a fresh start would help me. I guess that's probably what he was thinking, and maybe I was thinking too. I don't remember, but my cousin, who is a few years older than me, she was into the party scene, so I kind of see where that goes, right? I kind of just got right back into it again, hanging out with the bad crowd, and at that point, I started dabbling in selling, marijuana and mushrooms and stuff, and still struggling, right? Like I was just a lost kid, right? Angry at the world, and I felt like everyone owed me, and at that point, for whatever reason, I decided I wanted to be a dope dealer, right? That was my goal, and that was my vision, and that's kind of where it went. I was drinking heavily, binge drinking, and I just remember I would do that because it would help me like feel comfortable in my skin, right? It was so bad, like this is how bad it was. Like my voice wasn't like it is now, like it's been a lot better, believe it or not. Back then it was like a lot of it to do with fear too, right? I really didn't like my voice, and I was just actually fearful to even talk. So like it was brutal, man. The anxiety even around talking to people. So I would drink just to feel comfortable in my own skin, and then I could talk, and so I would binge drink, right? I would wake up in the morning and I'd get a buzz on right away. I was like 15 years old at the time, and so yeah, I would drink heavily and smoke weed every day, and then just doing a bit of dealing and stuff. And eventually, it was like my uncle got sick of that too, right? He realized he couldn't help me, and so basically, he told me one day, like, there's a lot of scenes in there. Obviously, right, a lot of things happened, and um, he basically came to me one day and he's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, I can't want you to destroy yourself, and because like again, my health was really really bad, right? So it's just people come to me like, what are you doing and why are you doing this? And it's because my health was so bad and it's crazy. So again, I didn't, I phoned up my brother and he was on the island. And he was basically doing the same thing I was doing, as far as I knew. But in my mind, he was doing a lot better because, like, I didn't know like all the other stuff he was doing, like the drinking and doing drugs and stuff like that. Like, kind of when I would talk to him, it was just all good, and he was just really successful and kind of doing what I was doing, but in a much bigger scale as far as selling and stuff like that. So I phoned him up and said, asked if he had a place for me to stay. And so I ended up moving down there and basically got thrown in right into like growing and doing cultivating of marijuana. And he was connected with some like organized crime guys down there, which was kind of like really exciting for me at the time. I think I was 17 or 18, and I was just kind of like addicted to making money at that point, and obviously still smoking weed and stuff every day. And well, it was like it was good for me in a way because I kind of got I was making a ton of money, and it really built my confidence and stuff like that. And for some reason, I put down the bottle, right? And I was just from now on I was just heavily focused on making a ton of money. And I was just surrounded by these guys that were super successful, and all they were about was making money, right? So I just kind of got thrown into that, and it was really good for a while. And then things changed. I won't get too much into it, but basically we had a falling out with these guys. We found out like these guys were just they just weren't good people, right? And it ended up we seen them ripping everyone else off around us, and eventually it got to the point when they started doing that to us too. So it was just like trying to leave and do our own thing. So basically I ended up buying a house at that point. I made a bunch of money and bought a house, and I got really isolated, right? I was just kind of growing inside this house, and um I met this guy who was he was a crystal meth addict, and God knows what else too. He was basically doing every drug he could get his hands on. And he offered me some meth one day, and I took it, right. And that's kind of like it. It was so powerful. Like I'd never done meth before, right? I just remember it's so powerful. It scared the bejesus of me, right? And I was up for days, and I just kind of like fought the urge to do it again, and but eventually I just did it again, and that's kind of how things went, right? I guess I just kind of fall into to doing that, and even though I was like super successful, started making money and stuff, um, I would just kind of fall back into doing drugs and things like that, and I eventually got to the point where I would just start hanging out around with more people. Like it was incremental, right? I think from the time I was 15 to 19, you know, I did really well. And then 19 is when I started selling like ecstasy and things like that, and started selling like the harder drugs, and because I just wanted to make more and more and more money. And I was just kind of addicted to that. And so when I was selling those harder drugs, I would start hanging around with those people that were, you know, obviously doing those drugs, right? And I started, you know, dealing with people that are connected with, you know, stolen goods and stuff like that. And so I was kind of into that element, and that's when things kind of really got really bad. And you know, I was just super impressionable. I'd get stuff offered to me. Like the next thing was crack cocaine. And I did that. And first time I did that, it was even way, way more powerful than the meth. And so again, I fought that for about a month, I think, not to do it again. And I picked that up again. I just got the urge and got real stressed out one day. And so I started doing it again. And that was like the hardest drug I'd ever done. And once I started doing that, things kind of escalated. And before I knew it, I was smoking crack every day. And then that's when things really spiraled out of control. Like I said, I was still like kind of successful in doing what I was doing, but it got to the point where I couldn't even do that anymore. And I started smoking fentanyl, and actually started with oxycontins. And first time I did oxycontins, I did them every day just because it kind of was like, it reminded me of the morphine, right? And it just got to the point where it was just super out of control. Probably over a 2-year period, to the point where I was no longer selling anymore. I was just basically, honestly, God, I was like holed up in my house, doors boarded up, windows boarded up, like in complete psychosis, right? I was foreclosing on my property. I was no longer paying the bills and stuff. And yeah, man, it got really, really bad, to the point where, you know, I was like, you know, people are coming to me. Obviously, my dad was terrified. He came to me crying one day. He's like, "What are you doing?" And then that's when I decided, like, I need to try and get some help here. And like, I didn't really know what to do, so I just went to detox. And I thought, you know, that would help me straighten me out. And I just kind of wanted to keep doing what I was doing, but I just thought I'd get clean, right? I'd get off the drugs and be like, you know, I obviously seen drugs are bad, and I'm not going to go do that anymore. I'm just going to get off them, because I couldn't stop no matter how hard I tried, right? Even though I realized I had a problem. So I thought I'd go to detox, and that would get me off the drugs. And so I went to detox for 9 days, and I came back home, and basically I was just right back at it again doing drugs. And so that went on for quite some time. Like I was just consumed, right? For whatever reason, I thought I could just continue like that. And it got to the point, like I said, where I lost my house. I was losing all my friends, and no one wanted to be around me. And it got to the point where I was just, you know, at that point, I wasn't even selling anymore. I was just collecting debts that people owed me and stuff to support my habit. And so it got to the point where I was just super, super struggling. And again, my health was really struggling. So I checked myself into treatment. I thought, you know, detox didn't work, so I'm gonna try treatment. I did treatment, and it was just like a 42-day rinse cycle. And for whatever reason, I was just still consumed with doing dope in there. I was actually even doing dope while I was in treatment. Crazy enough, right? And I was in and out of treatment like 5 times, basically in a matter of 7 years, I guess it was. In and out of jail too, homelessness. And it got to the point where I was just basically, I was like just a shoplifter, you know what I mean? I'd steal, and geez, it was bad, man. I was breaking into people's homes, and just like a petty thief at that point, right? And in and out of jail because of that. You just get caught all the time, and just did some horrible things, right? And it's no matter what I tried and going to treatment and stuff like that, it's just I couldn't stay sober. Just totally consumed with addiction. And it wasn't until I went to treatment the last time. It was actually in Vancouver. I bounced around all over, from like the island to Kamloops, back to the island, just trying to stay sober and get my life together, right? But it was this last time I went from Kamloops to Vancouver, and I was actually homeless on Hastings. And like at the lowest level, obviously, right? If no one's ever been to Hastings, it's basically like it's like the Night of the Living Dead down there. It's a war zone down there. It's just like junkies is a harsh word, but addicts, I guess, from all over Vancouver basically congregate down there, and it's like the worst of the worst down there, right? So people are dying down there every day and from overdoses and stabbings and stuff. And I was basically fighting for my life down there every day, right? I never wanted to get on methadone because it was just like I knew it was the hardest drug to ever get off because I've been on so it wasn't I dabbled with it here and there, but I'd seen people that were on methadone and they never got off it. But it got to the point where I was struggling so bad just to maintain my addiction where when like if you ever done heroin, right, you know how addicting it is. And then once you don't get it, it's like you feel like you're dying. So that way it would get to that point like a lot to the point where I couldn't afford heroin, right? So I just methadone's free, right? It's a government heroin basically. So I got on that and it was kind of like I look at it now as it's kind of a good thing because I would go into the methadone clinic just kind of like get a reprieve from the streets of Hastings and to get my methadone obviously too, right? But they'd feed me down there and they're just super, super nice. And one of the guys down there who worked down there, he was actually a recovered addict and he convinced me to go back to treatment. He actually was the one who got me a place in detox. He actually walked me down there. Just an amazing guy. And that's when I just started taking things really, really seriously and like taking a program of AA seriously. And I actually volunteered at the treatment center. Um, it's crazy. I had a small slip in there too, though, where I just did it one day and basically like, it's crazy, man. Like if people have never done drugs and been addicted to drugs, it's like it's a beast, right? It's hard once you get that addiction and yeah, man, like I said, I struggled with that for years, 17 years, right? And but I was doing everything right. Like I said, I threw myself into the program and I started actually volunteering at the house. You know, I like they had a bunch of programs where we'd come down to Hastings and like feed the homeless and stuff like that. So it actually gave me a sense of purpose, which I never really had before. Gave me a lot of confidence. And I was actually doing really good for a while there. I had about 10 months and for whatever reason, I just like I started getting, consumed with making money. I started, I guess that was just an addiction I had I never dealt with. And so I took on like the volunteering and I was managing a second stage house and then I took on a painting job and I was just like overdoing it, right? Because I still in the background I still had like all these health problems I like obviously, I never really dealt with and like chronic fatigue syndrome, I still had that. Like it's hard for people to understand, but once you go through chemotherapy and radiation therapy and stuff like that, never detox yourself. Like I was still had a lot of health issues, like cramps every day. I'd have severe cramps, and so it's even crazy that I was able to do what I was doing. Right, my memory was non-existent, and like it was bad. But like I said, so I started struggling with anxiety and depression again. I was just doing too much, and for whatever reason, I guess I was probably slipping on my program, like going to meetings and stuff like that, and helping other guys, and I started getting that idea to do dope again, and which is just what happens, right, when you're struggling. And so it really, really scared me because I remembered where it brought me the last time, right? And for whatever reason, like I don't know, I just was telling myself like you're not gonna do dope, and then the next thought I got was like because I was really struggling not to do dope. But like I said, I don't know where this thought came from because I never had it before, but it was thrown into my head like you may as well just kill yourself, right? And that just obviously scared me, right? And it actually dropped me to my knees and I cried out. I never really was a believer in God. I just, for whatever reason, I cried out to God and was like begging him in tears. I remember it was in my room. I just fell to my knees and I was begging God to help me because, I was terrified. And basically, it was like the very next day I went into work and when I was doing this painting job. And that's when this guy came to me at the end of the day. It's crazy how it happened. He came to me and he was asking me for a ride home from work. And I was like, yeah, sure, man. Just let me finish up here. Long story short, I give this guy a ride home. And he's telling me a story about how this holistic health coach saved his life from glyphosate poisoning. And basically, it was just quite the story. He was telling me I was about a 45-minute ride home. And so I was like, just had the idea. I was like, just this guy had any success with drug addicts? And yeah, he told me like he had a 90% success rate, which I never really believed, right? Because in AA or whatever, it's like 5%. And I seen guys like in and out of treatment and stuff all the time, including myself. But I just had a feeling like I should get a hold of this guy. So I just asked him, like, is there any way I can get a hold of this guy? And he's like, exactly, I can phone him. He's super busy, but see if we can get a hold of him and maybe we can talk to him right now. And so we called him, he answered the phone, and I talked to him like right then and there for about an hour. And he just blew my mind and like all the wisdom and knowledge he had and just gave me a lot of hope. Even just talking to this guy for an hour, right? And basically like I would talk to him almost every day. He said, just call me whenever you're struggling. And that's what I did. And basically long story short, I ended up hiring him as my health and life coach. And he just radically transformed my health in a short amount of time. Like he detoxed my body, showed me how to do all that. I changed my diet obviously and just started doing a bunch of different things and yeah, basically so now I'm almost just actually almost 6 years clean. It's over now. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
That's great. I didn't want to cut in anything. You had an incredible story, and I appreciate sharing everything in
Mm.
pretty much detail, as far as what's happened to you in your journey so far. So I do have a few questions that kind of go back. So, uh, well, at what age did your mom pass away? Was that
I was around 11.
around
Yeah,
11? So you
yeah,
had leukemia diagnosed around 10, right?
10 years old. Yeah,
And then you lost, your mother passed away. And then I'm just trying to go through the timeline with years. And then you were addicted to drugs a little bit thereafter, right?
yeah. So I got clean basically when I was 34.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So through this whole time, you still have leukemia and stuff. Is that correct?
No, because I had the
Oh,
bone
no.
marrow transplant. Yeah. So I
Okay.
was actually cancer free. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I actually
So,
it's crazy. I got cancer again when I was 19. I had a huge tumor on my lip. Yeah.
okay. So you got cancer free when?
When I was, I guess, 11, just around 11, I guess.
Oh, okay.
After I had the bone marrow transplant, they gave me a new bone marrow, right? So now it's
Yeah.
cancer free.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, that's good to hear. And then you just carry out this addiction with these people that you can't became associated with through your life
Yeah.
then. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how important do you find it to surround yourself with either those people that drug you down that way, and then the importance of, your coach and stuff that you fell upon?
Yeah.
There's two different avenues there. One that took you down the wrong road, and the other one that kind of pulled you out of it. So
Yeah.
how important are your associations to your journey in life?
They're absolutely crucial, man. Like you would never stay sober, like living around a bunch of people and doing drugs, right?
Hmm.
It's just not possible. Environment is everything. And they've actually proved that in a lot of studies too, right? But I just surround myself with the wrong people. Like I said, I was just lost, right? I was absolutely lost. And the people that accept me were those people, right? So I was just looking for a sense of belonging. And like I said, I found the booze, which gave me a lot of comfort in my struggles with my health and my anxiety, my depression and stuff.
Yeah, which will lead me into the next question of I don't know where you are today, but I feel like that you're being more present and
Mhm.
focusing on your future and stuff, and not stressing out
Absolutely.
about anything. So,
Absolutely.
how did you get to that point? You know what I mean? Going through all this stuff, how did you get to
Mm.
being more present and more focused on the future?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's just basically doing everything right. I completely cut ties with everyone who was obviously in my past life, right?
Hmm.
Anyone that was negative in my life, like in this includes family, like friends at the time, right? Like I basically, jumped ship, right? Cut
Yeah.
off anyone that wasn't supportive of my new life. And that's what I did, man. And then like I said, that was huge. So I just surround myself around like friends who like actually the guy who introduced me to my holistic health and life coach. We're actually really good friends now, right?
Mhm.
And like I said, I'm still working and actually training with him now. So, but yeah, I basically just jumped jumped in with him full bore, and I've been completely freed of every addiction I ever had. I was smoking cigarettes too at the time, and like I said, I radically changed my diet too. My diet was like most people, it's pretty bad, right? Like I never understood how bad it was, but yeah. And so I changed my physical health, which is a huge part of your mental health too, as well, right?
Yeah. So you cut out some friends and some family members, which
Hmm.
a lot of people are like probably stressed over that I can't do that. They would feel bad. So you start feeling what they would probably feel, and they probably don't. Right. So,
Yeah,
I mean, for you, how hard or how easy was that for you?
it was. Yeah, no, it's definitely it was hard for some, but really not for others. You know what I mean? 'Cause once I understood, because it was explained to me in a way where it made sense, right? That's why coaching is so important because unless we're like we can be told something like don't do this, but unless you're explained why by someone who actually knows why, the odds of you doing it are slim to none, you know? So always explain to me in a way that made sense. And once I did it and it really helped me, then it was like it made it easy.
Yeah. And coaching, consulting, whatever it is, I find myself is very important too, to kind of open up the doors and the windows for you,
Mhm.
so you step back and you actually see the bigger picture of what's going on around you. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, so this one coach, is he the only, and this new friend that you created, in the past there, were they the only ones that kind of helped you out?
There's actually like a few people that were involved with him already in his coaching, right?
Mhm.
All his clients and stuff, and then most of them they stay in touch with him. So basically he would just like it's like a big like almost like a family, right? So basically he just got me in contact with a bunch of those people and there's actually a few of those people around where I was living and so we would hang out and stuff and all learn together and it was cool because he'd host live Zooms where we'd all connect on there and so I just started hanging out with these people, right? In person and on Zooms and stuff. So it
Yeah.
really kept me on the right path and the straight and narrow.
Yeah. So, I know there's like a transition phase, right? So you
Mhm.
were in this bad environment, and you slowly did maybe what, let's just say it was like an hour a day Zoom in or something with these people, and then eventually, like, it sounds like it grew, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, and a lot of people are experiencing that transition phase because they don't. It's the unknown, right?
Yeah,
You knew your past, and you didn't really want to be there, but you didn't know what the future is going to be like.
yeah.
Um, so
It's
I
not easy, man. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's not easy.
Right. It's not
Yep.
easy. I
You,
get it. And that's exactly the point I'm getting at. It's not. So
yeah,
finding that one person or the two people that like not push you, but like, hey, this is okay. Come this way if you want to,
yeah. In all
and
honesty, yeah, you're right. I wouldn't have done it without him.
mhm.
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
Yeah,
We need
and
support.
right. And same goes for me. Like, I mean, and I would imagine most of the listeners and other people I've interviewed, it it's just those few little people and the few little, hey, I'll jump on a Zoom for an hour every week or whatever. It just takes
Mhm.
that little bit,
Yeah,
and that's enough. And I know that somebody listening to your story, they're gonna be like, okay, well, he went through all this, and this is what he did. I'm sure they're going to reach out to somebody to find something if they want to change their life.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. And so, I know you mentioned God a little bit in your story there. And I just wanted to ask,
Hmm.
was there faith always involved, or did you just find him towards the end there when you wanted to change?
Yeah, it's fun. Well, it's not funny, but yeah, like I would get in a lot of near death experiences, right? And
Hmm.
for whatever reason, that's when I would cry, like not cry out to God, but just be like, even though I wasn't a believer, like I never read the Bible or anything like that. For whatever reason, that was always my go-to. I'd be like, please God, just get me through this. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird. I think it's like a thing that's inside of us, right? Obviously, but now I'm a hardcore believer in God. I read the Bible every day, and that was kind of like what was introduced to me too, right? Not right away, like it wasn't introduced to me to right away because maybe if it was, it would have just pushed me away, right? But yeah, now that's a big part of my day. Like I read the Bible every day, and it's a huge part of my life. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I asked that for like a personal question too, because I'm kind of on that same kind of path now, you know,
yeah.
um, experiencing new things and kind of like pushing it off on the universe or whatever it is, that yeah,
Mhm.
this is gonna change, and it's not all that stress and anxiety sitting on you, you know.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm seeing it, and then you can lean into towards your purpose and move forward.
Mhm.
But no, yeah, so that's why I would kind of ask that question, because I'm in the same path, trying to read a little bit every day, and
Awesome.
talk to people. Yeah, it's definitely a game changer. It's slow
It
for
is.
me. It's a slow process. I don't know about other people, but
Yeah.
it
Do
takes
you
time.
read
Just yeah.
exactly? Do you read it out loud?
No, I have not. Do you?
Okay, read it out loud. It's absolutely crucial.
Okay.
Yeah. Faith comes by hearing, hearing the word. It says that in the Bible. So
Okay.
yeah.
I could see that when I listen to, somebody, a pastor or whatever, you kind of take it in more. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'll try reading out loud. I appreciate that
Yeah, for
advice
sure.
there.
Mhm.
Uh, so, William, what are you doing today then, I guess, to help other people either get through this kind of struggle or whatever else they might be going through?
So basically, like right now, like I'm not actually coaching people one on one.
Hmm.
So what I do is like I just reach out to people. I reach out to people that I know are struggling. Like I do a bunch of like I on a bunch of Facebook groups. I have my own Facebook thing where people can see what I'm doing. I say where I come from, what I, things that have happened to me, right? And so a lot of people like reach out to me on there as well as on TikTok, right? So but like I can coach people on detoxing and some simple things like that. Basically what I do is I just refer people to my coach as well as his son. Because both him and his son, they have a coaching company. And that's what I'm doing right now is actually training to do what they do, right? So at the moment right now I'm just like I'm just doing a lot of training, a lot of coaching, and then I do a lot of calls with them. So basically, like when I bring someone in, like I to introduce them to them, I'll come on the call so I can learn like that. But basically, I just like try to support people as much as I can, and just what I've known, like what I've been taught, and just some really basic stuff.
And
Yeah,
that's a lot right there in itself, just
yeah,
supporting people, and because there are going to be those people that reach out and they just need a hand to hold,
yeah,
and then it
exactly.
sounds like you're that transition guy, right? You're the one
I
that's,
just
hey, go
yeah,
here. Yeah.
I just direct them in the right direction, right? Because like we have a group set up where people can come in and like they never had this before when I met them, but so now we have an online group where they can come in and basically learn everything we're teaching and have access to lives and it's really amazing, right? Which it's the support that people need, right?
Hmm.
And so they can talk to everyone. It's like a big family community, right? So yeah, if they're struggling, they can just talk to people on there and yeah, it's
That's
really cool.
that's awesome. And so they can connect to you through Facebook, you said?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the
Okay.
William Kemm is my
Okay.
handle on there.
All right.
And
Yeah.
they can
No.
also find us too on the website is elitedynamiclife.com. And you can actually find the private group on there too as well. It's called Warrior Nation.
Okay. Yeah. I'll link all that stuff, that whatever you're suggesting and stuff. If you wanted to, I'll link all that.
Awesome.
Um,
Thanks, John.
yeah, absolutely. And so I have just one question that I'll ask everybody at the end. And I know you shared a whole bunch of information just throughout your journey there. But what are three key things you've learned and used along your journey?
Three key things. Okay. Well, one of them for sure is never give up hope, right?
Mhm.
Never give up hope because no matter how far down you go, you can always bounce back up and get your life back, right? Number two is to always ask for help. That was the hardest thing for me too, and it is for a lot of people. They don't want to ask for help, but everyone needs help. We're literally designed to have people help us, right? Because the one thing I learned too is the best feeling in the world is helping other people, right? So when you're asking for help, not only you're getting help, but you're helping someone else too as well, right?
Yeah.
And for God's sakes, change your diet. So start eating healthy, right? Because
Yep.
you start eating healthy, it'll radically change your life.
Yep. I
It will.
agree. Cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing everything. You know, it's an incredible journey you had, and I'm glad to hear that you came out to the person you are now on the other side
Mhm.
here. Um, Yeah. So thank you, William. And it was great to have you on.
Awesome. Thanks, John. It's great being on here, buddy.